The following exploration of Western Australia will take you to diverse locations in the biggest state that exists in Oceania in Australia. There are a variety of landscapes that are not found anywhere else in the world, and also this is true regarding flora and fauna. Hopefully you will enjoy such scenery. However, my intention today is not just a visual and auditory one, because I am very worried, like so many people, about what is going on in the world that ultimately will destroy not only what you're seeing, but everything else with it, if as a humanity who is united, we are not going to do anything to prevent further damage. I've already spoken in some other uploaded material about the experiments that were done regarding prayer and regarding the power of intention, and how in America, quite a number of years ago, real factual experiments showed that if just 10% of the population, which is 750,000 people more or less, I understand, gets together with the same positive, powerful intention of making our life in the world a better existence for all concerned, through positive and pro-life intentions, a change in consciousness will create the desired outcome. Now, there is so much going on with beautiful people worldwide, putting a lot of very, very positive messages of a similar nature online at the moment. And this is the wonderful gift that systems such as YouTube have created for us in humanity. Another wonderful experience is that of traveling and meeting people face to face, just in normal everyday deals, asking for information of where to go, for example, about cultural mores and traditions of where they are, and so on and so forth. In fact, such movements of people do show us that there is nothing wrong with the majority of citizens of the world. So what's going on? Why is there what we're witnessing both at the political and social economic level, and especially now at a worldwide environmental level? I never thought that I would want to get you to focus your attention on what some people might call controversial subjects that need more explanations and more in-depth research. However, I would really like to invite any interested person, and hopefully most of you will be, because it's about your lives and everyone else's life, and especially your children's lives and their children's life after that, to have a look at just two titles in particular that I'm going to mention in a moment, that you will find yourselves by typing exactly what I'll say in YouTube. I know that they are more than half an hour long, And for that reason, like I did, perhaps if you're a female and you're doing some home chores that don't take a lot of very attentive focus, you might like to have this playing in the background, these YouTube presentations that are not mine, and listen to what is being said. If you are a male, perhaps you can do likewise while you're relaxing in an armchair and just looking out of the window. I really think that what you will hear will really make you wonder about a lot of things that have been hidden. Now, I've been studying ancient texts and breakthroughs in quantum physics and about historical happenings for quite some time now, and especially intensely in the last couple of years. So what I will do, I will now let you enjoy some of the visual coming up. The very ones that are just about to start are on the Bungle Bungles, which is an amazing area that was discovered about 100 years ago and can only be visited when there are no floods. After this, I will again start talking with those two titles on YouTube, and I will immediately follow them with some uplifting stories that are part of what I've written in some of my books that are not online, that are not with any publisher, and perhaps one day there will be, I don't know, where I had decided to write positively so that by knowing that having very life-affirming contacts with people overseas that you may have never met in your life before and never see again can really help all of us believe that humans overall are a wonderful race, no matter what our background, no matter what our upbringing, no matter what our social status. If we forget about being judgmental, if we act with our hearts and minds interconnected with each other as well as within our own selves. So I'll let a couple of minutes go, and after that I'll give you those two links, followed by one or two of the stories that I have written in this collection I'm still working on. Enjoy. The two titles were respectively Who Are the NWO Jesuits and Franklin D. Roosevelt Tells All Before He Dies. Franklin D. Roosevelt Tells All Before He Dies, and Who Are the NWO Jesuits. Hopefully you will not be as teary and sad as I was when I was listening to all of that. I wish so much none of it was true. But if you look at other sources that I've been also exploring over the last few years, unfortunately, you need to come to your own conclusions and see what you think with such archival evidence that now is online available for us all. Anyway, I will go on now with chapter 1 of the book that I mentioned. Miracles can happen, and they do every day, yet behind each of them are eternal laws that work the same for everyone. As knowledge and skills expand us throughout our lives with the help of an ever-evolving inner world, our willingness to become a vehicle for peace, knowledge and love for others can definitely increase. The ultimate success of attracting and developing life-affirming energies within ourselves first will then allow other individuals to see such improvements. This in turn will become a motivating force for similar changes to be made within themselves, leading us all to the highest and better good of all. At times, this has also been the case in my life, because one first needs to relearn things that never rang true or were not part of our personal understanding in order to proceed. Then, once we've discovered that our personal beliefs and inner thoughts are emotionally supported by our inner core, we can begin to change our inner dialogues and become an example for others, doing away with false assumptions we had accumulated from the past. Via our new thinking patterns and emotions, new actions are thus created, producing different results, and we learn how to better practice selfless acts of love, forgiveness, gratitude, and compassion. In a society that has often been fragmented and aggressive, as can be witnessed by the news in various media, to have more serenity and enjoyment of life, living life fully in loving ways, is the way, in my opinion, that we all need to be moving towards. The more others will be motivated to do the same, and studies have shown that we only need a tiny percentage of the global population to inwardly and genuinely focus on something in loving ways for positive change to be made, affecting the majority. If you find this questionable, please refer to the vast output from people such as Greg with a double G, Braden, B-R-A-D-E-N, who is from a scientific background and has written books such as The God Code and The Power of Prayer. Prayer seen as an intention that we're all capable of connecting to, not in a religious sense. Furthermore, studies carried out on water molecules clearly show how the power of prayer and intention can transform murky lakes into clean and healthy water sources. Due to the intelligent energy and properties of water, in fact, uneven and polluted water molecules have been transformed to the purest, most beautiful and symmetrical crystals. Such changes have even been photographed over and over again, and there are books and articles on these that you are encouraged to do your own research on. So my own aha moments have often been learnt the hard way. I seem to finally have understood that the sooner I can forget and forge on in a spirit of self-love, appreciation, thankfulness and compassion, very positive light-transforming outcomes evolve almost by magic and in turn help others. With the added support of loving friends and via following my own inner light in the way I've described, outcomes beyond my expectations have unfolded in unprecedented ways. But I will return to this later. Now I'm going to skip quite a number of chapters and I will move on to chapter 6, where I am actually sharing a story of one of my travels. Adventure, exploration, expansion, curiosity and variety are inherent in us humans, and throughout the ages they have enabled the most incredible progress to take place. From tried out and mastered experiences, a change of perspective and understanding is enabled via such qualities. This process is responsible for the creation of new ways of expression and for the birth of new forms of being, differing to previously known parameters and thus enabling further transformation of previous ideas. Like children, most adults who choose to do so can continue to be equally as fascinated and stimulated by the new surroundings and experiences. Similarly, I too often became attracted by a plethora of varied beckoning locations and life philosophies. In fact, once I set myself into motion the first time, I triggered my whole being into planning more and more such experiences in foreign lands. Fortunately, I must say, this practice is fairly common with others as well nowadays. More and more young generations seem to be engaging ever so frequently in this almost limitless discovery. They often do so on their own, even single females, much earlier than used to be the case in my 20s. The advent of low-cost travel, such as via airlines like Ryanair or by joining associations such as Workaway.info, for example, have made it possible to spend less on a return flight to another country than on an internal rail ticket. This opened the whole world to people seeking experiences abroad while contributing to their freeboard and life experience while working a minimum amount of hours in exchange. Ryanair are even planning to offer free flights in the not-too-distant future. Life, having moved along in such expansive and mind-opening manners, shows quite clearly how popular it is now for us humans to gather enriching knowledge away from our home's nest. Young travelers of all creeds and ethnicities can derive such pleasure in so doing to such an extent that they have even devised online businesses allowing them to be on the move most of the time. There is a whole family doing so continuously. They own no home anywhere in the world. They have several children, and they give very popular talks on their lifestyle and findings. By sharing their courageous adventure, indicating their utter trust in life with its unlimited abundance, they never lack keen participants to their courses, attended by a general audience who is very eager to learn the same skills. In my case, without such clever and enriching ways set in place, moving around has been mainly low cost and by choice as frequently as feasible. What has been always propelled me forward, in fact, is the soul's fulfillment I derive from such experiences, which have often been in the company of at least another friend, but also on my own. Actually, at times, when an older person such as myself nowadays is by themselves, some pretty amazing situations can evolve. I will start by recounting one of such memories in this chapter. It happened a few years ago in Poland. Despite having had a few close Polish friends when I was a young university student, I never realized how lovely the country was until when I went there myself. This was in response to a very moving and historical celebration which was run by a Polish prince who resides in the White House of London and who is a girlfriend's partner. The occasion was the unveiling of a golden statue commissioned by him, and this took place near Warsaw, where his father, leading about 60 horsemen, freed that town from foreign invasion. I felt privileged to be invited to such a special and significant event, yet slightly worried that the way I had changed over the years may have been an embarrassment to my girlfriend. In fact, when we used to share an apartment together, I was a real socialite who spent a lot of time and money on her looks and who cultivated the proper art of conversation. After the many sporadic years of just keeping in touch via email, however, and my time in Europe to be geographically close to my family, I had a 360-degree turn in my values. I no longer spent time looking at special outfits and accessories I had to have, as they no longer seemed important. In short, when the invitation came during another stretch of time in Europe, I gratefully accepted it and also decided to turn that trip into a fuller experience. On my own, I went about my business before and after the wonderful event. Searching on the net, I found a central youth hostel which had just opened in Warsaw. There, I met some incredible ladies in my dormitory, as well as the most helpful administrative staff, the majority of whom were university students who could speak a few languages fluently. Most of the time, I was out until late, and leaving the hostel very early in the mornings. For part of my stay, I did not return at night on some occasions. In fact, when traveling through Poland, I stopped one night in Krakow, a splendid place I really enjoyed the architecture of, as well as somewhere else. For the whole time I was in that country, each day was full of blessings. In all fairness, more than one story ought to be told about it, yet amongst all of that kindness, openness and interaction to be found everywhere, one meeting in particular really impressed me. At one stage I was trying to head back towards the city centre in Warsaw. I wanted to see a special fountain with coloured water jets that travel brochures had recommended. Having lost my bearings, as I was going up a hill in a stunning and vast public park, I asked a young man with a helmet, who was coming down the same small hill with his bicycle, if he could give me some directions. Like most young people in Poland on that trip, he too was extremely courteous, and his English skills were excellent. What was different about him, as it turned out, was the way he literally went out of his way to make my stay even more enjoyable and memorable than it already was. He asked, "Why are you interested in seeing such touristy rubbish? Wouldn't you prefer to see another fountain that's very significant to us historically, and the flame of which is guarded 24/7 by our soldiers?" Most impressed and slightly confused, I replied, "Of course, but my time is limited. I'm not here in Poland for very long, and I've already made plans to see a selection of interesting cities and towns in your beautiful country in a few days, given the very reasonable cost of public transport and my feeling safe and motivated by the people I've met so far." Before we knew it, the two of us, for the remainder of the day, spent more than 6 hours together. Love does not have to have an age component. It needn't be romantic at all, nor is it a nationality connection, nor even a specific phase that has to come our way. Love is about those moments when our conscious awareness guides us, taking over and allowing our best intentions to shine, enabling us to fully appreciate and absorb crystals of joy offered at the most unexpected moments. I was in the company of a very grown-up 16-year-old whose parents had parted ways and who lived with his father. He was trusted implicitly, kindly allowed to spend time to show a total stranger some beautiful aspects of their city. As it turned out, this young fellow was also a country's gold medalist in martial arts. He, like other genuinely intelligent and open young minds in Poland I was consistently meeting whilst there, was extremely interested in the outside world. What this new generation of Polish people seemed to have in common, in fact, was a high level of English acquisition, a desire to practice the speaking skills whenever possible, and to find out all about life beyond Poland. I felt very humbled and enriched by how much I was shown and experienced at that time. After the beautiful commemorative place I was taken to and explained about, I was also shown the fountain I had wanted to see. It was then, when we both were still enjoying each other's company and conversation, that the suggestion was made for me to go and see the university library. I was getting worried about his father by that stage, and insisted he make another phone call to him to check that all was fine, which it was. What a treat! I was in awe. Such architecture for a library really impressed me. After climbing many external metal steps on various ramps to reach its summit, the surrounding view was truly impressive, and the glass transparency into the floors below was an experience to behold. It felt like being an external observer suspended on a cupola more similar to some of the finest French glass and metal roofs than a library structure. Surrounding these fluid structures were plants climbing the tectonic. Pardon the previous interruption. I had not read well some changes I made to the writing. So, curiously, most were not made up of flowers at all, as we soon found out, and once we had entered that building. The first impet there was an antithesis to our jolly and shared experience thus far. Two middle-aged guards came down the imposing staircase at the entrance, not very happy to have a young man in cyclist's attire accompanying the aging foreigner, who was a puffed-out lady who wished to admire that architecture. They strongly indicated that such a facility was exclusively for university students and staff, yet from upstairs they came to our rescue. I often refer to upstairs as the like of guardian angels, departed loved ones, spirit guides, and or our higher selves. In fact, as the two lawgivers were still standing there, exerting their controlling power over us, a charming young lady descended the steps. She was a librarian who, having heard that I was a traveller being shown around by a local young man, immediately made us feel at ease and took us to the main desk. There we were introduced to a colleague. This is how the charming group of people I had never met before nor seen since were engaged in sharing interesting life moments with us. We were shown photographs of the flower beds in all seasons and actually told about how proud, understandably so, they all were to have created such an effect. Those plants in reality were not flowers but various types of vegetables. What an inventive, useful and effective way to spread beautiful colors and forms in the library's surroundings. If that evening had been lived through a dream with closed eyes, and someone had told me that the architect was the same as the architect for the gardens of Babylon, I would have indeed believed it. Sadly, having travelled rather extensively and having had so many memorable, special and gratifying moments in so doing in many countries, I've lost touch with that particular young man. In the end, when we parted with an exchange of emails, he did say that he was hoping that I may have known someone overseas happy to sponsor him to go and work somewhere out of Poland as a way for him to gather further experience in English. I generally did try to do so once I got back. I sent a group email to various friends and contacts mentioning this. Sadly, I never found anyone available to do so. And eventually, I did not hear back from this delightful young man either. Well, after another pause of about 2 minutes or so, I will continue with more reading, hoping that you are enjoying the experience. Seeing as the remainder of the presentation is not that long, I will just conclude by reading some of the final pages. Although these pages were written as a self-healing exercise that allowed me to re-experience some joyful moments in my life as a traveller, my greatest hope throughout has been that of sharing some happiness, knowledge, links and skills from my personal experience, which I hope others can be assisted by. As a person who has been involved in education all life long, in a world where old ways are no longer serving the masses much of the time, and where many administrative bodies are gradually changing their ways to survive, I dream about the unfolding of a new education system. Ancient Greek, Roman and Asian teachings dealt with an integration of human emotions, feelings and reasoning. To see such interconnectedness return in all of our schools would be, for me, a dream come true. Much has been achieved in human history, yet highly important knowledge has been hidden from the masses for centuries, and most of it not very pleasant. In my view, it's now time to be teaching again the truths that connect our hearts and minds to everything else surrounding us. Some progress in this direction seems to have been made, but it's not enough. For example, some pilot schools are showing students how to practice daily meditation, even at kindergarten level. It's my belief that when all school subjects are adequately integrated with each other, new generations will grow in a harmonious and loving world and not in one of fear and disassociation. Furthermore, encouraging students through creative processes such as with art and music entwined to other subject areas such as maths and science, love of knowledge will manifest. The separatist pressure of passing cumulative tests and exams within overly prescribed parameters can thus be replaced by a general enthusiasm and appreciation of life, resulting from the inner harmony of a fulfilling educational framework. Most of us are well aware of the many disasters caused by worrisome socioeconomic political issues that have been happening in the last decades. Persisting on this path will quickly lead us to the tipping point that many ancient cultures have warned us about throughout the ages. Do we really wish for that Third World War to happen now, or for the biblical end of life as we know it in a dreadful way that the Bible mentions? Would it not be wiser to redesign our destiny? Would it not be desirable to reach different outcomes by learning ways that lead to inner peace, beauty, and harmony instead? The choice is ours, and not just as individuals. Changes have to be made within a plethora of institutionalized systems which are no longer working well for the majority of people. Far too often, these have been dictating the laws to others under the illusionary banner of a democratic system, yet forced by controlling individuals that are leading at the very top, at the tip of a pyramid that is so horrific to know about, which if you were listening to those 2 YouTube links, you would understand more about yourself. Sorry, I just added this to my writing. Back to my writing. It is thanks to the rediscovery of ancient texts and to the findings of people such as those already mentioned. I did mention several people in other pages. This is another added comment I'm making. That more and more individuals are now ready to open their hearts and minds to deeper truths, liberating their souls rather than suffocating them. Such refreshing ways are in turn opening doors to a wide range of community-minded projects. Happy people engaged in meaningful life pursuits are creating new social, political, and economic ways, catering for financial needs, yet in a more balanced, inclusive, community-minded, and equitable way. Look, for example, at the expansion of Airbnb and similar online businesses such as Uber. Of course, they do have some problems created by certain individuals, but the contribution that is positive and uplifting that they make is over and beyond such situations. As a final comment, I'm extremely grateful, therefore, to have become aware of the ongoing work of so many people. The sum total of their research and understanding, mainly based on scientific evidence, mathematics, ancient texts, content, and spiritual guidance, have enabled my own puzzle to be practically complete. They've greatly helped me find a safe place within during highly stressful times for all of us to experience. What's missing now is for the rest of my life to be lived with yet more appreciation, compassion, health, and joy each and every day. Everything I had heard before, in fact, which had not yet made sense, has been gradually revealing itself by the work of so many people online and on Google, and I've followed with passion what they have also been sharing with others and thank them for it. I now know that we really do need to follow much more consciously our own paths, integrating all aspects of our lives, whether they be physical, spiritual, or dealing with primary needs, and interconnecting them with each other and everything else beyond us that includes people and life in general. Following the path of least resistance, in fact, and knowing that we're never alone, not even when we may have not seen our family and friends for days, will lead us to where we need to be at any one time. Once we're in touch with who we are and learn that we need to live from within, everything will seem to soon change for the better, and it will. In conclusion, and therefore, I believe that once we become the conscious creators of our destiny, we can enjoy our intimate connection to everything around us and touch other people's souls, who in turn will do the same in a ripple effect that's positive, pro-life, and will help our future continue in a positive way, undoing all the horrors of the past. This has been clearly demonstrated, as I said, in the latest scientific discoveries that at times I have referred to in the pages written so far. Remembering that we're spirits in a body with physical and psychological needs that must be taken care of, we can all choose to create ongoing harmony within and without. This finally, and if we so choose, will lead us to a life well lived and worth living, no matter what the world around us seems to be doing. Now, this was actually the end of the written part where I recounted my travel stories, and what I'm still working on are actually hands-on exercises to help our physical bodies and dietary habits to become better and better, so that they too are making us more open to a very positive continuous growth on Earth. Thank you, and till next time.